5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Over. This is Stan Kinsley speaking. Today, this is the 22nd day of August 1990, and I'm interviewing Mr. Charles Kelley of 232 South, what is this, Purdue Avenue in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Kelley, when did you join the service?
It was July the 18th of 41.
Did you volunteer?
No, I was single, had no excuses, and was drafted at that time.
Okay. How did you end up in the branch of service that you did?
Well, went to Fort Eustis, Virginia for training, and we trained on 155 coast artillery guns, cannons, you could call them, I guess. For the basic training, why, there's 4 of us that were sent to Fort Dupont, Delaware. And of all things, after training on it and learning every nut, bolt, and screw on the 155 gun, why, this was a mine-laying outfit. I, of course, never knew that the Army and the Coast Guard laid mines. So we learned the nomenclature of various kind of mines and anchors and all. And then the December the 7th happened a couple of months later. So we immediately were sent down to Fort Miles, which is right on the point at Delaware Bay. And at that time, our tankers were being sunk along the Atlantic submarine coming through Delaware Bay. So our job was to lay mines all across Delaware Bay to Cape May, New Jersey, as a precaution against submarines coming that way. Of course, it's not the final outfit I was in. It so happened that quite a few of them were old Army, and the others were drafted 6 before I was, and so you had no chance for promotion at all. And I had learned that they're forming an outfit in Florida to reproduce maps, and that had been part of my line of work in civilian life. And I happened to know a person in Washington that was organizing these outfits, which was Bray. And I wrote him a letter and said that I was available. And 2 weeks later, this outfit, since we were actually doing work, not training, laying those mines, people considered it impossible to get out. So I was big shot strutting around there, being, incidentally, those northerlies blew in on that point, picking up that sand, and it hit you like buckshot. So here I was going to Florida out of an outfit that was impossible, they considered, to get a transfer from that. And it certainly made a difference in promotions, because down there, now in this map-making outfit were new recruits. So they did partially basic training, which I'd already gone through a couple of times even. So I knew operation of presses, especially in map making. Here, corporal, and 2 weeks later, sergeant, and finally staff sergeant. And I taught the fellows how to run lithographic presses in the outfit that went overseas.
What did you do in civilian life?
I worked for a TVA.
Did you?
Yes, in printing of maps and forms and things of that sort.
When you went into the service? Was anybody else in your family in the service?
No.
Yeah. Did it bother you to leave home?
No, actually, I'd been transferred from, while working at TVA, from Knoxville, which was my hometown, to Chattanooga. So I had been there for a couple of years.
A little bit older and more mature than most of the boys that were going in, weren't you? Right then. You were a little older and more mature than a lot of them.
Although there were several that were before in the outfit, and I guess the others were younger.
Had you been to different parts of the country before you got into the service?
No, I didn't.
What did you think of the people that were in charge of your training, based on otherwise?
Chosen by the headquarters or someone to attend on the old standards, people quite often used azimuth instruments relative to firing heavy artillery. So that school lasted for 8 weeks, which I'm not. We kept on emphasizing that we'd just be corporals when we got out of here, and otherwise you'd be sergeant. Now you better straighten out and get all this material. We had tests and worked the full 8 hours going to school there for several weeks. I also used azimuth instruments, so it did come in handy in that respect. They used triangulation. The boats go out with a mine. 2 base end stations would form a triangle, and you would, and they know exactly where the was placed. Because these were control mines. They weren't the kind of contact mines. They were controlled from the shore. The huge cables running on the bay floor to the plotting ground.
What? Tell me again what units you were a part of. The one that, let's talk about the one where you spent the most time in, once you got on laying the mines and so forth. What unit was that you were showing me there a minute ago, engineering unit?
Yeah, it's 960 Graphic Aviation Company. We were attached to various wings of the Air Force to reproduce maps.
And that pretty much was your duty to reproduce maps, right?
Well, my particular one, we had platoons that, geodetic platoon that would go out and exact spot of the Earth on the Earth for use for radar, you know, when they were building airstrips around. We had various things that did odd jobs for the Air Force as well. I guess the main body of it was made up of the drafting, the orthographic process.
There were people from other parts of the country in your unit, of course. What did you think of those people that you had just met?
Oh, we got along swell. The last outfit that I was in, the one I went overseas with, were from schools ones. It was rather amusing. They were from Fort Dix, so they're strictly Island and so forth characters. And I would find more little clippings on my bunk on food, and child brides. You know, they'd catch a little article in the paper somebody 10 years old gave me, and I got 4 little clippings. I'd come back to my bunk, and there would be. But I well with all of them. There's all types as there is in any group of 200 people. One thing, you're all in the boat more or less. You had the same basic gripes, and whether you're rich or poor, why you were somewhat.
You spent time out of the United States. When did you leave the States and when did you get back?
At Camp Stoneman, California, and on a Mount Vernon troop ship November the 5th of 43. We went out in a southerly direction and then straight across to Australia because the submarine menace was there to some extent in the Pacific. And this was Washington, renamed it Mount. It was a fast troop ship, so we went not in convoy. The 5th when we left is November the 21st. In Australia for a week or two. We went to Brisbane, Australia. We went on a freighter to New Guinea.
Where in New Guinea were you? What did they call it?
Landed at Fort Strip. Much of it jungle. We had to carve out our place where we were going to stay, but we were fairly close to those strips. And
when did you get back? I know you did some other things after then. When did you get back to the States? What was the date of your return? Approximately in a month is okay.
September the 27th, 45, and got to Tacoma, Washington, October the 9th.
1945, right?
Yes.
Okay. When did you get, you remember, did you come from Tacoma on home in days on leave or something?
While I was in the Army, just before I went overseas, Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be discharged.
Do you keep in touch with any of the men that you were in the service with?
On Christmas cards or long distance calls from time to time. One of them that I contacted all along was 70s, and I still, as I mentioned, exchange Christmas cards, but I don't have any.
Well, have reunions that you go to, or this, any others go to?
No, I've never heard of any. I certainly would go. Since it's an outfit of so few people,
Mm-hmm.
well, no one has ever taken the initiative. I would imagine it'd be hard to get in touch with people now anyway.
What memories do you have of the men who served with you?
I was in a boat, and all of them. We went through quite a few different things together when the Japanese were infiltrating, especially squirming around, dodging the tracers. That's another thing that I didn't know before. The Japanese, well, they chased some signal corps out. This was in the machine gun, and they took it down the road where we were. We were in an adjoining outfit, and those tracer bullets, I think it's Air Force or something, is a tracer, and how they arc when you're on the other end. When firing, you don't realize it, I don't believe. But when you're on the other end, it's dark, those things loop. They don't go in a straight line. I know that's off the subject.
No, that's interesting.
Question you asked me.
Well, tell me about, were you all under attack or fire anytime you were in New Guinea? Did you have any Japanese opposition?
No, just a few reconnaissance planes, and we had moved them back on up towards the northern or western end by then. So we didn't have a great deal of trouble with the Japanese. Just joining our outfit, I just happened to think of it. they had a mock that if anyone was going to bomb it, why, it would just trimmed and all, and turn on a few lights from the various generators that they had set up to move out, which was rather. Well, when we first moved there, it wasn't very comforting to have it right next door. But I don't recall that they ever did on that. We had it rather quiet in New Guinea, just carving out the place where we were going to stay from and those big old vines hanging down as big around like Tarzan would would swing on.
Okay, after New were you all using any native labor in New Guinea?
Yes, I think I'm sure that we did for us. And I think they had a few other details, but later on in the Philippines, while we out at KP, because we had some native labor.
Right. Okay, after New Guinea, then where was the next stop?
In the Philippines. And it started to another island and those. And then they had the naval battle that I mentioned before. Decided that we could progress, so they decided that we'd go to lose. But before we got there, our Navy was winning and throwing back, so we ended up going directly to Lady. We were in convoy. We were a Liberty boat. Ended up in Lady Gulf. I think it's about D5 or something real early, because that the Gulf of and strictly a blackout, because over all along trying to push out of Lady mainly, and we had strictly a blackout deal, even though there are hundreds of anything that I can remember. Let loose fire on the Zeros one time, and it's strictly no one else did it out of all the hundreds of boats, and we never did understand why, except that the crew, which was what are they? They weren't military.
Seamen?
Yeah, that's who it was. They got extra pay if they fired the aircraft. So that was the final conclusion, even though nobody told us. But out of all those hundreds of ships, our little ship fired at them. I know that was.
Okay, let's see now. Tell me about the rest of the time in the Philippines. You've just landed, haven't you? You're still under enemy fire.
After a while, finally were able to dock and get unloaded. On the making of facilities, but that's when the trouble I spoke of before, they infiltrated quite a bit. That's the island Tokyo Rose kept saying that we'd be running. We were practically infantry there for quite a while. We had little gags about non-combatant, put up sides and things like that. But we did some night patrols, and one time in particular, after the paratroopered a few people to go down with stretchers and pick up the wounded, and they were down in a flat hollow, and the aid station was up a huge bank, and pretty double. Anyway, there's 4 of us. Took that many to manage. To go, take it up that, which is just slick and muddy. You could go down to your knee and just feel like you couldn't get it back out. So we were taking one up. Of course, the fella above had to lean way over so have the stretcher on level, and the ones beneath would be holding it up above their head practically in order for the stretcher to stay there. On one trip up, well, in basic training, you always froze when there's a flare went off. You weren't supposed to make a training on that, and the flare died. So, Lieutenant, I'm just trying to help you out so you could see.
Oh, my God.
So that was contrary to, but we were right around the bend. There's a lot of firing going on, Whistling Pass, but there was a bend in the cliff, and they were slightly around it. So even though the things were uncomfortably close, why they weren't, they couldn't go around the bend. So we were safe. I was sad. The next morning, it's raining as usual, and one of the fellows we brought out say they just had a little aid tent, and there wasn't any other.
Okay, after you spent your time in the Philippines, did you come straight home from the Philippines?
Oh, no, well, from Lady we went on up to Luzon, but we didn't stay very long. Clark Field, of course, there weren't any dormitories left, but we did set for tents and stay there, but never did go up. Several weeks we went on to Okinawa, and ours was not neutralized. So we had a convoy going, so we're the first ones that skirted that way. And of all things, the LST we were on, and anyway, our fouled out, and we were in this convoy pulling us along. We didn't have any power, but I'm glad they did. I didn't want to be left there since we didn't have any trouble. There's several destroyers that accompanied us, and they dropped a few Marines there or not. Anyway, is it enough to keep you a little bit uneasy? And a picture of us being towed.
Okay, now that was taking you from to Luzon?
From Luzon to Okinawa.
No, from Luzon to Okinawa. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then from what happened on Okinawa?
Well, we set up again and directly various Japanese targets that would take place. That is long. That was along about the time they dropped the atomic bomb, so nullified that part. But we were out to the Aishima. I think I mentioned that planes came in, and then they got American. Earlier, Bernie Powell got killed.
Did you have any relationships with the civilians, or natives, I guess would be a better word than civilians, overseas? I remember work them or anything, or get to know them anyway at all?
Not too much. They did their laundry, and we'd communicate as well as we could with them. And that had charge of this speed graphic camera. And anyway, they sure did have a celebration for that youngster. And I sent little pictures for them. I never did ask him. I trusted his.
Did you have any contact with any Allied troops? See any of the British or Australians?
Yeah, Australians, when we were in New Guinea especially. A lot of.
What did you think of the Australians?
Oh, we got along well. Yeah, I like that.
What was the mail service? Did you get the letters and get them on time?
No, certainly not. No, moving that number of times. Sometimes it's 6 weeks, and then we get 10 or 15, at a time. Settled down to a place where there's a fair degree of regularity. But some even that were singed where the plane must have gone down and caught on fire or something.
Did you ever wonder what you were in the service and why you were there?
I pretty much knew. Hard to understand a lot of the.
What did you plan to do after the war was over?
Like the TBA.
Okay. Did you do that? Did you end up doing that?
Yes. I stayed about a year. It wasn't too great. I'd been gone altogether 4 years and 3 months. Some of the old timers welcomed you back too, but a lot of them were a little bit snippy because they were losing their jobs when you're coming back. And that wasn't the sole reason. Another fellow and I decided to go in business for ourselves. We were as comfortable as it was in there.
Well, I've heard that before, not of other organizations as well as TBA.
No one was nice to me,
Yeah.
but there's a little undercurrent about, well, I guess I'll lose that job.
Yeah. Did you have any feelings about people of grades that weren't in the service?
Not any strong feelings, no, because you never knew what.
Did the war change you?
I wouldn't say it changed me drastically. I'm pretty calm and not the nervous type that would affect me to too great an extent.
Do you think it changed the country?
It brought patriotism to the forefront. I don't know whether that has been retained at the present time or not, but at that time, wow.
Could we have done better during the war?
That many people coming into the service was a gigantic problem, but placing a person the most out of their intellect and their experience. To do that, you have to have a huge corps of interviewers that are smart. So I realized that the problem in placing where a thing that just has been talked about so many times.
What did you end up doing in civilian life after you left TBA and went into yourself?
The ship affair, I just didn't agree all the time, and it was 40 hours, so I got on with the Atomic Energy Commission. They needed people, and so I stayed there for
Around 89, 40 years. Is that right? 40 to 80.
Yeah, let's see, I came in 49. I did good work. You,
Yeah.
of course, could work there, but the scale of pay is technical people in that line of work.
Right. Well, I lived in Oak Ridge most of the time. since
The
you-
whole time.
The whole
yes.
time. Been here. Okay. Let's see how this sounds.